Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at probably one of the most controversial games ever to be released in the history of video gaming, and that is Grand Theft Auto. A series that has spanned on for pretty much over 20 years now, and it's actually spawned like loads of sequels and spin-offs, each with their own kind of unique characteristics, but it all started with this title, the original game. And as you can see, it's evident from literally the get-go in this game how over the top that it actually is. It was also one of the first games to really kind of revolutionise and utilise the style of open world gameplay. Pretty much from the get-go, you weren't really restricted to where you could actually go within the game world. You could pretty much go wherever you actually wanted within reason. There was actually side missions and main story missions and quests that you could complete if you so wish, and some of them were time restricted, or you were constrained to time in certain instances, but in a lot of cases you weren't, so you still had full freedom to pretty much go wherever you wanted. But one of the main controversial things was that it literally showed you how to really kind of engage with literally just mindless chaos and organised crime. You could literally just drive, knock over people, you could kill people, you could shoot people, you could pretty much do anything that you could possibly think of in the game, which was absolutely insane for its time. But I remember actually when I first got to play this we literally only got our PlayStation for Christmas of 1997, and this game was actually released literally only not long before Christmas of that year. And remember, actually everybody was raving about it. Everybody wanted Grand Theft Auto at that time, again because of the style of game it was beyond anything that anyone was used to at that time period. And now I was 15 at the time, so this game was literally for 18s. We weren't old enough literally to have it, but it didn't stop people, or like say kids, wanting it anyway. And I remember we literally had the PlayStation literally for about a week at Christmas, and around the New Year, going into early 1998, we had actually gone down to visit my granddad for the week. Myself and my brothers, my whole family went down and stayed down at my granddad's for the New Year holidays, just after Christmas, and that was down the other end of the country. So we actually had taken the PlayStation with us. We took a spare TV that we had in the house out of one of the bedrooms and took it down with us, so we actually had to be able to play the PlayStation while we were down now. And I remember actually there was a game shop in the local town where we were staying, and we were looking at some of the games, and they actually had a copy of Grand Theft Auto in the shop. And I remember myself and my brother Stephen were like, you know what, try and see if we can get it, because we were adamant, we wanted to get it, and we were in Dublin. We literally, on the day that we actually went down to go to see my granddad, we actually went up to Dublin earlier that morning and actually bought a couple of games. I remember I actually bought International Moto X and Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, and my brother bought Resident Evil Director's Cut, and I think he bought one other game. But we did want to actually buy Grand Theft Auto, but we knew we couldn't get it in those shops because there was no way that they would have actually sold it to us. And so we decided, when we were down in that game shop down in my granddad's local town, we decided, right, we'll try and see if we can get it. So I went up to the desk with it, and your man wouldn't serve me straight away. But then again, I didn't look my age. Like I was actually 15 at the time. I definitely didn't look my age. But then what actually happened was, the next day we actually went in. My brother Stephen actually went in, and Stephen was a year younger than me, but Stephen was a lot taller, and he actually looked a lot older than actually me, because Stephen was only like 13, not even 4. Stephen was only 14, I think. Yeah, he was only 14, but he looked like he was about 18 or 19. He always looked older than he actually did. And of course, he obviously was a lot more confident in going up and actually telling a load of kind of little lies, if you will, and he eventually got the game. Your man sold it to him in the shop. They say, I don't want to be kind of dissing people out or anything like that, but that was a thing back then where, you know, you just got away with little things like that. But it was one of those things, it was just kind of a case that you just, you know, you were just at that age where you were just, anything that you could do to get up to mischievous antics, even just to buy a game you were not allowed to buy, you were going to try and do it. And on that particular time, we actually got lucky, we managed to get it, which was awesome. And we couldn't believe it, like, we actually loved playing the game. We were like, yeah, this is actually cool, you know. And it was very different. I will admit, it's a tough game to play. It really is, like, compared to when you look at the modern games on modern systems where it's all 3D and you have like a proper open world kind of simulation style games where you can literally pretty much do whatever the hell you want. But this game really started it all. But I remember actually playing it, and we actually having a good laugh with this. The one thing that's evident about this game, it has a fantastic soundtrack. It's probably got one of the best soundtracks ever in the game. Definitely one of the best soundtracks on the PlayStation 1. I remember what we used to actually do is that if you could actually put the PlayStation disc into an actual CD player or a hi-fi system if you had one back in the day, and you literally could listen to the soundtrack through your CD system at home. And we used to do that because the music in the game was actually brilliant. So was the soundtracks were class. It had a mixture of everything: rap, rock, dance music. It had a bit of everything in it. There was something that catered for all whatever you were into pretty much at the time. Even a country and western music, which was hilarious as well. So it was just, yeah, there was literally a bit of everything in it. This game really just took the mick out of pretty much everything, even though it was very controversial, it was very violent, but it was also done in a way that was actually very, very funny. You know, it really was kind of just completely just bonkers. It was out there. And the cool thing about it was as well, because we got it at a time, like literally we'd gotten the PlayStation, we had already had amassed like say a couple of games, and then on Christmas we'd actually gotten quite a few games. So by the time we'd actually gotten this game around the Christmas holidays, by the time it went back to school in early January that next year, say a couple of weeks later, we'd about 12 or 15 games, and we literally amassed them in the space of only like say two and a half weeks between getting games from Christmas, games we had bought before the holidays, and then literally getting Grand Theft Auto then top it all off. So we had a crazy selection of games to play, like, so it was insane time to really kind of be involved with playing the PlayStation, because you had so many just absolutely just crazy and awesome games to literally play. And this here was it was an exceptional game all the same. I know, like, say by people it is controversial and all that, but it definitely is such a fun game. Difficult as hell, but you have so much of a good laugh with this, and the fact that you could just drive around and just be completely just chaotic and do whatever the hell you wanted was just absolutely insane. This game really stood out, because I remember even for months after that, I remember even going back to school, and even say the guys even in my classroom and anybody that was into their video games, everybody talked about Grand Theft Auto, everybody was just raving about it, because I think nearly everybody actually tried to get it at that point in time. Everybody was playing it, so they were. It had such a cult following, so it did. So you can definitely see why it spawned so many sequels and why it's one of the biggest game franchises now of all time. Because it's just absolute chaos and mayhem. But again, it's done in a way that even as serious and as controversial as it can be, it can also be very funny as well, with actually good plot lines and good stories. And it's based off like kind of like proper action movies that were released at the time. This game really was beyond anything that I ever played at that time. Now I will admit, I know graphically it doesn't hold up as well today, and it definitely wasn't one of the better looking titles on the PlayStation, if I'll be honest. But what it lacked in graphics, it definitely more than made up for in what it offered in terms of gameplay, because this game just literally had it all, to be honest, like. And it was just absolutely just chaotic, it was just insane, it was funny, it had all those kind of elements in it. And it really was so much fun. I do remember actually when we were going to buy this game, I did have a choice of actually either getting this or Duke Nukem 3D. And I do remember back in those days I did really want to get Duke Nukem 3D. But at the time, we only had enough money just to get one game, so we had to choose between the two. So we quite obviously Grand Theft Auto, because myself and my brother Stephen and that, and see my mates, everybody was playing Grand Theft Auto at the time, so we were kind of like, obviously this seems like the more natural choice, because it definitely offered just as much. So it did. You know, eventually did get Duke Nukem a couple of months later. I've also done a previous video on that as well. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out too. So I did get my way eventually, but again, for being able to play this for the time period, it definitely was a fantastic opportunity, and it is still a cool game even today. I know, I will admit, my favourite actually in the series actually is Grand Theft Auto 3. It was the first Grand Theft Auto game to be released on the PlayStation 2, and was also the first game to be fully open world with 3D graphics that used a third person perspective, so it completely changed the genre type of the game. But I absolutely love that game. That game is still, for me today, is one of my all-time favourite games, and it is my favourite Grand Theft Auto game, and it's also one of the funniest. That game is absolutely hilarious. That game is just crazy, and again, that also has an excellent soundtrack as well. So it kind of started like with all this here as well. I remember playing this game for months, because you could just, the missions in it, they all varied from fairly easy to like ridiculously hard, and there was very little room for error. But there was also access to loads of like different cheats where you could unlock all weapons, even get like access to like tanks where you could literally just go around and just blow the crap out of everything, which was just insane. So they just if for a game to just cause absolute mayhem, a lot of the times you just turn this on for half an hour, literally just to go nuts in the game and just cause chaos, without even doing the missions. As you can see here, you're just going just bonkers just with playing the game. That's what it actually offered to you. You pretty much chose how you wanted to play it, which was definitely unique really for its time. You weren't restricted to like limitations on linear type levels or story kind of based kind of elements. You literally had the choice to pretty much play the game as and when and how you saw fit, which is definitely a step ahead especially for that time period in games. So I highly recommend, if you haven't checked out Grand Theft Auto, you need to play it. So what are your thoughts on GTA for the PlayStation 1? Did you play it back in the day? Did you own it? And if so, did you enjoy it? What did you think of it? Be sure to share your thoughts down in the comments below, as I'd love to hear them. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be updated whenever I release future videos, as I will be reliving a lot of these old classic games, and even playing other games I never got to play back in the day, and sharing my memories and thoughts with all of you. So as always, make sure to keep playing all those classic games and enjoying them, and make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.